They say you can't come back from rock bottom. They were wrong. 5 years ago, I clutched an ultrasound photo in my shaking hands, 8 weeks pregnant after years of trying, ready to tell my husband the news that would change everything. Instead, he changed everything first. In front of 200 people, he called me a traitor, showed photos of me, fake photos, selling his secrets. I begged him to listen, told him about our baby. He looked at me like I was garbage. Then he grabbed my arm so hard it bruised and dragged me to the door. The snow was falling. I wasn't wearing a coat. You were a souvenir, Sierra. A cheap one. He threw my wedding ring into the snow. The doors slammed shut. I walked 4 miles in that blizzard, bleeding, crying, dying inside. I lost our son in a county hospital. Alone. No husband, no money, no future, just $40 and a broken heart. Pierce Sterling thought he'd erased me that night. He had no idea. He'd just created the woman who would erase him. My name is Sierra Vance, and the billionaire who threw me in the snow to die just walked into MY boardroom, begging ME to save his crumbling empire. What happens when he turns around and sees my face? You won't believe it. Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe right now. Hit that bell. Because what Sierra does when Pierce sees her face in that boardroom, you need to see it. And drop a comment. Do you choose revenge or forgiveness when someone destroys you? Your answer might change after you hear this story. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The night everything shattered. Sierra's reflection stared back at her from the floor. Length mirror. The gold gown hugged her brown skin like it was made for this moment. Maybe it was. She'd spent 3 months planning Pierce's birthday gala. Every detail perfect. From the ice sculptures to the imported champagne. Her hands trembled slightly as she fastened her diamond earrings. Not from nerves, from excitement. The ultrasound photo was tucked inside her clutch. 8 weeks. After 4 years of trying, of treatments, of silent tears in bathroom stalls, finally. She'd planned to tell him tonight, after the toast. A private moment in all this public celebration. You look beautiful. Pierce appeared behind her in the mirror, adjusting his bow tie. He didn't smile. He rarely did anymore. But tonight felt different. Tonight would change everything. Thank you. She turned to face him. Are you ready? Always. His eyes swept over her once, clinical, like he was checking inventory. Then he walked out. Sierra's stomach tightened. She told herself it was morning sickness. The ballroom was a winter wonderland. Crystal chandeliers threw rainbows across 200 of the wealthiest faces in America. Senators, CEOs, old money and new power, all gathered in the Sterling estate in Aspen. The mountains loomed outside the windows, dark and watchful. Sierra moved through the crowd, shaking hands, smiling. She'd learned this dance. How to make small talk with people who'd never spoken to someone like her before she married Pierce. How to ignore the way their eyes lingered on her skin, cataloging her difference. Lady Catherine Sterling stood by the ice bar, draped in emeralds and contempt. Pierce's mother had perfected the art of the cutting smile. She caught Sierra's eye and raised her glass. The gesture felt like a threat. Darling, you've outdone yourself. Celeste Dubois appeared at Sierra's elbow, all platinum hair and practiced warmth. Pierce's business partner, his frequent dinner companion, his mother's favorite choice for daughter-in-law. Thank you, Celeste. Sierra kept her voice even. Though I do hope Pierce appreciates all your effort. Celeste's eyes glittered. Not everyone would be so understanding about all those late nights at the office. Before Sierra could respond, the lights dimmed. Pierce took the stage. The crowd hushed. Thank you all for being here. His voice carried that natural authority that made investors open their wallets. This year has been transformative, and I have some announcements to make. Sierra's heart lifted. Maybe he knew. Maybe he'd planned his own surprise. But first, I think everyone should see something. The massive LED screens flickered to life behind him. Sierra's face filled the screens. Hotel room. Dim lighting. She was handing a briefcase to a man in shadows. Her expression looked cold. Calculating. The timestamp read 3 weeks ago. The room went silent except for the click of the slideshow. More photos. Different angles. Sierra accepting cash. Sierra with documents spread across a bed. Sierra kissing the stranger's cheek. Her blood turned to ice water. No. The word came out as a whisper. No, that's not. But no one was listening. 200 pairs of eyes turned to her, some shocked, some disgusted, some satisfied, like they'd been waiting for this. Pierce stepped off the stage. His face was stone. Pierce, please. Those aren't real. She reached for him. His hand closed around her wrist, hard enough to bruise. Don't. His voice was quiet, deadly. Don't insult me with lies. I would never. Tears blurred her vision. Please, just let me explain. Explain. Lady Catherine's voice cut through the room like a blade. How does one explain stealing proprietary secrets? Trading them for cash? Betraying the family that lifted her from nothing? The crowd murmured. Sierra heard the words clear new. Gold digger. Can't trust? Pierce? I love you. Sierra's voice broke. Those photos are fake. Please, I'm pregnant. We're going to have... Enough. He dragged her toward the grand mahogany doors. She stumbled in her heels, her clutch falling, the ultrasound photo sliding across the marble floor. Someone stepped on it. The night air hit like a fist. Snow was falling, thick and fast. Pierce shoved her down the stairs. She landed hard, gold fabric tearing, skin scraping against ice. You were a souvenir, Sierra. He stood above her, silhouetted against the warm light of the ballroom. A cheap one. Something pretty to show off. I should have known better than to trust someone from the gutter. He pulled her wedding ring from his pocket. He'd already taken it from the safe and threw it into the snow. Don't let the gates hit you on your way out. The doors slammed shut. Sierra knelt in the snow, watching her breath cloud in the freezing air. Her hands were already numb. She wore no coat, no shoes that could handle this terrain. Her phone and wallet were inside, in a coat check she'd never reach. Behind the frosted windows, the party continued. Someone turned the music back on. She tried to stand. Her ankle rolled. She fell again. The estate gates were a mile away. The main road 3 more beyond that. The temperature was dropping. Single digits, maybe lower. Sierra looked at her hands, brown skin already turning ashen, and made herself stand. She walked. The snow fell harder. Her gold dress became a frozen shell. Each step was agony. She couldn't feel her feet anymore. Couldn't feel much of anything except the cramping in her lower abdomen. No, not now. Please, not now. But her body didn't negotiate. 2 miles from the estate, Sierra collapsed. A truck driver found her 3 hours later, hypothermic and bleeding. He called an ambulance. In a county hospital that smelled of disinfectant and desperation, a tired doctor told her what she already knew. "I'm sorry. The fetus didn't survive." Sierra stared at the ceiling tiles, counted them. 42. She counted them again and again, until the numbers were all that existed. When the nurse asked if there was anyone to call, Sierra said no. She had no one. She was no one. The woman who'd walked into that party, kind, hopeful Sierra, had died in the snow. What remained was something else. Someone else. Someone who would remember everything. The county hospital discharged Sierra after 48 hours. She had nowhere to go. No money. No identification. Everything had been in her coat, back at the estate. When she called Pierce's personal line, it went straight to an automated message. "This number is no longer in service." She tried the house line. A stranger answered. "The Sterling residence no longer recognizes this caller." Click. Her bank cards were declined. All of them. Joint accounts, her personal savings, even the small account from before the marriage, frozen. Lady Catherine's lawyers worked fast. Sierra sat on the hospital steps in borrowed scrubs and rubber sandals, watching cars pass on the highway. The social worker had given her a list of shelters. $40 in emergency cash. A pamphlet about starting over. She laughed. The sound was hollow. A black sedan pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down. A woman's face appeared, older, elegant, with silver, streaked hair pulled into a tight bun. Sierra Vance. The woman's voice was crisp, professional. Sierra tensed. "Who's asking?" "My name is Margaret Chen. I'm an attorney. Your godmother, Diane Morrison, sent me." The woman stepped out of the car, extending a business card. She saw the news coverage. She wants to help. Sierra stared at the card. She hadn't spoken to Aunt Diane in years. Her mother's best friend, who'd moved to Hong Kong after her mom died. The woman who sent birthday cards with $50 checks that Sierra always felt guilty cashing. "I don't need charity," Sierra said, even as her body shook from cold. "It's not charity. It's family." Margaret opened the car door. "And Ms. Morrison asked me to give you something. A trust fund your mother established before she passed. You couldn't access it until you turned 30 or experienced a qualifying life event." "Divorce qualifies." Sierra's breath caught. "My mother never had money. She had a settlement. Medical malpractice. She put it all aside for you, with specific instructions." Margaret's expression softened. "She wanted to make sure you'd never be trapped. That you'd always have a way out." Tears burned Sierra's eyes. Her mother had died when she was 12. Cancer, misdiagnosed for 2 years. Sierra never knew about any settlement. "How much?" she whispered. $200,000. It's been invested conservatively for 18 years. Current value is approximately $470,000. Sierra's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the hospital steps. Margaret sat beside her. "There's more, Ms. Morrison wants you to come to Hong Kong. She has connections there. Business opportunities. A place to heal, away from all this. I can't just run away." "You're not running. You're regrouping." Margaret pulled out an envelope. "First class ticket. Leaves tomorrow from Denver. New passport. Expedited. Fresh start." Sierra took the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a plane ticket, a temporary passport, a printed email from Aunt Diane. Your mother would want you to survive this. Come home to me. What about Pierce? The accusations. Everyone thinks I. Let them think what they want for now. Margaret's voice turned sharp. You need to disappear. Heal. Get strong. Then, when you're ready, we fight back. But you can't fight from a position of weakness. Sierra looked at the highway again. Every car heading somewhere. Everyone with a destination. She'd spent 4 years being Mrs. Pierce Sterling. Being silent when his mother insulted her heritage. Smiling through business dinners where men talked over her. Giving up her scholarship to Stanford Business School because Pierce said his wife didn't need to work. What had all that kindness gotten her? A miscarriage, a destroyed reputation. $40 and a pamphlet. Okay,
Sierra said.
I'll go. 24 hours later, she was on a plane. First class. She'd never flown first class, even married to a billionaire. Pierce said it was wasteful. The flight attendant brought warm towels, champagne, a menu with actual choices. Sierra took it all. Ordered the most expensive meal. Drank the champagne. Let herself cry quietly behind oversized sunglasses as they crossed the Pacific. Aunt Diane met her at Hong Kong International. Older now, but still wearing the bright colors. Sierra remembered from childhood. She wrapped Sierra in a hug that smelled like jasmine and home. My sweet girl, Diane whispered. I'm so sorry. So sorry. They didn't talk about Pierce that night, or the next. Diane's apartment overlooked Victoria Harbour, all glass and light. She gave Sierra the guest room, brought her soup, let her sleep for 16 hours straight. On the third day, Sierra finally spoke. I lost the baby. Diane's face crumpled. She held Sierra while she sobbed. The first real crying since the hospital. Great, gasping sobs that felt like they'd tear her apart. He didn't even ask, Sierra said between breaths. He didn't ask if the photos were real. He threw me away. Then he's a fool, Diane said firmly. And fools always pay for their mistakes. Over the following weeks, Sierra began to emerge slowly. Painfully, she cut her hair short. The long curls Pierce had loved were the first thing to go. She started running at dawn along the harbour. Pushed her body until it hurt too much to think. Diane introduced her to her business circle. Hong Kong was full of expats, entrepreneurs, people reinventing themselves. Sierra listened more than she spoke. Learned about tech startups, venture capital, the Asian markets Pierce had always dismissed as too complicated. One night, at a networking dinner, she met James Chen, Margaret's brother, a venture capitalist who'd made his fortune in AI and blockchain. You were married to Pierce Sterling? James asked, direct in that way Hong Kong business people often were. Was, Sierra confirmed. He's an idiot. James sipped his whiskey. His company's growth model is unsustainable. He's over-leveraged on 3 continents, and his AI division is 2 years behind competitors. I give him 5 years before he needs a major bailout. Sierra's pulse quickened. You really think so? I know so. I've run the numbers. James studied her. Your aunt says you went to Stanford. Business scholarship. I never finished. I got married. Finish now. Online. Or don't. Experience counts more than degrees in this city. He pulled out his card. I'm always looking for smart people. If you want to learn this business, call me. Sierra took the card. Why would you help me? Because Margaret vouched for you. And because I don't like bullies. James smiled. Plus, watching you take down Pierce Sterling someday. That would be entertaining. That night, Sierra stood on Diane's balcony, watching the harbor lights reflect off black water. She thought about the woman she'd been. Sweet Sierra, who believed love conquered all. Who thought being kind was enough. That woman was dead. What rose from those ashes was something different. Someone harder, sharper. Someone who understood that power wasn't given, it was taken. She called James the next morning. I want to learn everything, she said. Everything about venture capital, about leverage, about how to build an empire. Then come to the office Monday, James said. Bring coffee. You'll be starting at the bottom. Good, Sierra replied. I know my way up from the bottom. She hung up and looked at herself in the mirror. Short hair, clear eyes. A face that had learned how to hide emotion. Pierce Sterling had thrown her into the snow to die. He had no idea. He'd just created his own destruction. The game was on, and Sierra had nothing left to lose. Year one in Hong Kong felt like drinking from a fire hose. Sierra arrived at James Chen's office at 6 every morning, made coffee, copied documents, sat in the back of meetings, silent, absorbing everything. The other junior analysts looked at her with curiosity at first, then confusion. She was 30 years old. Most of them were fresh graduates. She had no degree completion, no resume, no LinkedIn profile. Just a reference from James Chen, which was apparently enough. Why are you really here? Asked Marcus Wu, a cocky Stanford MBA who loved reminding everyone where he'd gone to school. James doesn't hire charity cases. Sierra looked up from the financial models she was studying. Then I guess I'm not a charity case. She went back to her spreadsheet. Marcus huffed and walked away. But the question bothered her. Why was James helping her? That evening, she stayed late, analyzing the company's investment portfolio. Something caught her eye. A pattern in their Southeast Asian tech investments. A blind spot in their due diligence process that had cost them millions on 2 failed startups. She spent 3 nights building a presentation. Risk assessment models, market analysis, alternative vetting strategies. When she finished, her eyes were bloodshot, but the work was solid. She put it on James's desk at 5:47 a.m. before he arrived. By noon, he called her into his office. Where did you learn this? He held up her presentation. Stanford. Before I left, and Pierce used to bring work home. I paid attention. Sierra met his eyes. Did I overstep? You just saved us from making the same mistake on a $12 million deal we were closing next week. James leaned back in his chair. You have instincts, Sierra. Raw talent. That's why I hired you. Margaret told me what happened in Aspen. The fake photos. The public humiliation. Most people would break. But you're angry. And angry, properly channeled, builds empires. Sierra's throat tightened. I don't want revenge, Leah. James smiled. You want it so badly you can taste it, that's fine. Use it, but be smart. Revenge, served cold, is served best when your enemy doesn't see it coming. He pushed a folder across the desk. New assignment. I want you to research Pierce Sterling's company. Every division, every liability, every weakness. Pretend you're planning a hostile takeover. Show me where he's vulnerable. Sierra's hands trembled as she took the folder. Why? Because in 5 years, maybe less, he's going to need money. And when he does, I want us to be ready. Not to save him. James stood up. This is a test, Sierra. Show me you can separate emotion from strategy. Show me you can think like a killer. She worked on that project for 3 months. Nights and weekends. Dove deep into Pierce's corporate structure. Sterling Tech had 7 divisions across 4 continents. The flagship AI division was bleeding money, propped up by government contracts that would expire in 4 years. His cloud infrastructure was overbuilt, with server farms sitting half empty. He'd acquired 3 competitors in 2 years, all financed with high-interest debt. Pierce was a house of cards, beautiful on the outside, one strong wind from collapse. Sierra's presentation was 90 slides, comprehensive, brutal. She showed James exactly how to destroy Pierce Sterling's empire, piece by piece. James read it twice. Then he smiled. You're ready for the next level. He promoted her to associate, gave her real clients, real deals. Sierra threw herself into the work with intensity that scared even the workaholics in the office. She learned Mandarin, studied market trends until she could predict movements before they happened, built relationships with CEOs, investors, power brokers across Asia. At night, alone in her apartment, she let herself remember the baby she'd lost, the ultrasound photo trampled under expensive shoes, Pierce's face as he threw her into the snow. She didn't cry anymore. Tears were wasted water. Instead, she went to the gym, hit the heavy bag until her knuckles bled, ran until her legs gave out, turned pain into fuel. Aunt Diane watched her with worried eyes. You're working yourself to death, baby. I'm working myself to life, Sierra corrected. The old me is dead. This is who I am now. Year 2 brought her first major win. A tech startup in Singapore. Everyone else passed on it. Said the founders were too green, the market too saturated. Sierra saw something different. She convinced James to invest $2 million. 18 months later, the company sold to Alibaba for $80 million. Sierra's analysis had been perfect. Her cut of the commission was substantial. Not billionaire money. Not yet. But enough to prove she belonged. James took her to dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant overlooking the harbor. You have a gift, he said. You see what others miss. Why? Sierra swirled her wine. Because I know what it's like to be underestimated. Those founders, young, no connections, just raw hunger. I understood them. Everyone else saw risk. I saw myself. And Pierce never saw that in you. Pierce saw a pretty trophy. He never bothered to look deeper. She set down her glass. His loss? His massive loss, James agreed. Speaking of which, I've been hearing things. Sterling Tech's AI division just lost their biggest military contract to a Korean firm. Stock dropped 11%. Investors are getting nervous. Sierra's heart rate picked up. How nervous? Nervous enough that he'll need to show growth soon or face a revolt. James studied her. The timeline is accelerating. Maybe 3 years instead of 5. Good. The word came out cold. Sierra didn't recognize her own voice sometimes. Didn't recognize the woman who could discuss destroying a man's livelihood over seared scallops and champagne. But that woman got results. Year 3 was her breakout. She led a consortium that acquired a struggling Indonesian e-commerce platform, restructured it, and flipped it for 300 million in profit. Her name started appearing in tech publications. The mystery woman of Hong Kong VC, Sierra Vance, the analyst who never misses. Pierce's name appeared too, but in different contexts. Sterling Tech faces mounting pressure. Can Pierce Sterling save his sinking ship? Sierra read every article, studied every earnings call, watched his empire crack. She felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, just cold calculation. Then in year 4, she met David Park at a conference in Seoul. Korean-American. Harvard Law, specializing in corporate restructuring and hostile takeovers. Brilliant, ruthless, and utterly professional. I've been following your career, David said over coffee. Impressive trajectory. From nothing to managing a $200 million portfolio in 4 years. That's not luck. No, Sierra agreed. It's not. I also know who you used to be, Pierce Sterling's ex-wife, the woman he publicly destroyed. David's expression didn't change. I'm guessing this success isn't just about money. Sierra should have been angry at his directness. Instead, she respected it. What gave it away? The pattern of your investments. You're building a specific kind of portfolio. Companies that could be used as leverage against tech infrastructure firms, cloud services, AI training platforms, data centers. You're assembling weapons, Ms. Vance. Very expensive weapons. And if I am? David smiled. It was the smile of a shark. Then you need a lawyer who specializes in corporate warfare. I've taken down 3 Fortune 500 CEOs. I know every legal trick, every loophole, every pressure point. And I'm very, very expensive. How expensive? For you. A percentage of Sterling Tech when you take it down. Because you will take it down. I can see it in your eyes. You're not just planning revenge. You're planning annihilation. Sierra sipped her coffee. Studied this man who saw through her so easily. Why would you help me? Because Pierce Sterling testified against my father in a patent lawsuit 12 years ago. Lied on the stand. My father's company went bankrupt. He died of a heart attack 6 months later. David's smile faded. So yes, Ms. Vance, I have my own reasons. The enemy of my enemy is my very well-paid friend. They shook hands. The deal was done. Year 5 arrived like a countdown clock, hitting 0. Sierra had built something extraordinary. A venture capital firm called Phoenix Group, backed by international investors, managing over $1 billion in assets. She was wealthy now, powerful. And Pierce Sterling was drowning. His stock had dropped 43% in 18 months. 3 board members had resigned. His cloud division was hemorrhaging clients to younger, faster competitors. The debt payments were crushing him. James walked into Sierra's office, her own office now, corner view, her name on the door, with a folder. It's time, he said simply. Inside was a confidential memo. Sterling Tech was quietly shopping for a white knight investor. Someone to inject capital, stabilize the stock, save Pierce's reputation. The asking price was massive. The terms were desperate. Sierra read it twice. Her hands didn't shake. Her voice didn't waver. Set up the meeting, she said. Tell them Phoenix Group is interested. Very interested. He doesn't know your Phoenix Group. He has no idea. I've kept my name out of everything. Corporate shells, offshore accounts, proxy investors. Sierra smiled. It felt foreign on her face. As far as Pierce knows, I disappeared into nothing 5 years ago. A broken woman who couldn't handle the truth. And when he sees you, then he'll realize the truth he couldn't handle was his own. The Phoenix Group headquarters occupied 3 floors of a Manhattan skyscraper. Sierra had chosen New York deliberately. Pierce's territory, his city. She wanted him to come to her, walk into her domain, unknowing. She stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse office, watching the city wake up. 48 floors below, yellow cabs crawled through traffic. Somewhere down there, Pierce Sterling was probably in his own office, desperate, scrambling to save everything he'd built. The team is ready. David Park entered without knocking. They'd worked together for a year now, and formalities had dissolved. Sterling and his people will be here at 2 p.m. His legal team, his CFO, and 2 board members. All men, by the way. Of course they are. Sierra turned from the window. She wore white today. A sharp Armani suit that cost more than her entire wardrobe from 5 years ago. Her hair was longer now, styled in elegant waves. Diamond studs, real ones, bought with her own money, caught the light. She looked powerful. She was powerful. "How do you want to play this?" David asked. Cold. Professional. "I want the deal terms presented first. Let them pitch their desperation. Then I'll turn around." Sierra's voice was steady. "I want him to see my face and know instantly that he's already lost." "You're sure about this?" "Once you reveal yourself, there's no going back." "He'll fight." "Let him fight. I have lawyers, leverage, and the moral high ground." "What does he have?" "Debt and a dying company." Sierra checked her watch. "Besides, I didn't come this far to hide." At 1:45 p.m., her assistant buzzed. "Ms. Vance, the Sterling Tech delegation is in the lobby. Conference room A. Make them wait 15 minutes. Sierra used that time to center herself. Breathing exercises. Mental preparation. She reviewed the terms one last time. Phoenix Group would acquire 60% of Sterling Tech, inject $500 million in capital, restructure the debt, but maintain operational control. Pierce would become a figurehead, a puppet CEO dancing on her strings. It was elegant, brutal, fair. At exactly 28:00 p.m., Sierra walked into the conference room, her back to the door, facing the windows, just like she'd planned. She heard them file in. Expensive shoes on marble, the rustle of suits, low voices, then his voice. Pierce's voice. 5 years since she'd heard it, but her body remembered. Her spine stiffened. Her hands wanted to shake. She wouldn't let them. "Thank you for meeting with us," Pierce began. His voice had that practiced charm. The same tone he'd used on investors, on journalists, on her. "Phoenix Group has an impressive reputation. We're honored you're considering SIT." Sierra didn't turn around. Her voice cut like glass. Silence. Then chairs scraping, they sat. David distributed the folders. "These are our terms. Phoenix Group is prepared to inject $500 million into Sterling Tech in exchange for 60% equity, 3 board seats, and operational control of all divisions." 60%. One of the board members, Sierra recognized the voice as Gerald Thompson, old money, Pierce's biggest supporter. "That's excessive. We were hoping for a strategic partnership, not a takeover." "Then you're in the wrong room," Sierra said, still facing away. "Your stock is down 47% year-over-year. Your debt service consumes 33% of revenue. You've lost 2 major contracts this quarter alone. You're not looking for a partner. You're looking for a lifeline. Who the hell do you think? Gerald started. Read the terms. Sierra interrupted. Page 4 details the restructuring plan. Page 7 outlines management changes. Page 12 covers debt refinancing. You have 72 hours to respond. After that, the offer expires and you can watch your company collapse on your own. This is outrageous, Pierce said. His voice had an edge now. Anger. We came here in good faith. Good faith. Sierra turned around. The room went silent, absolutely silent. Pierce's face drained of color, his mouth open-closed. No sound came out. Gerald Thompson looked confused. I don't understand. Who? Hello, Pierce, Sierra smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. It's been a long time. Pierce stood up so fast his chair fell backward. No, this is impossible. You disappeared. You had nothing. I had $400,000 from my mother's trust fund. I had rage. I had intelligence you never bothered to notice. Sierra walked to the head of the table. Stood there like she owned it, because she did. And I had time. 5 years to build this, to become this, Sierra. Her name came out strangled. How did the broken woman you threw in the snow become the only person who can save you? Sierra tilted her head. I worked. Every single day. While you partied in Ibiza and bought your 4th vacation home, I studied market trends. While you played golf with senators, I built relationships with real power brokers. While you coasted on daddy's money and your own arrogance, I became better than you at everything. Pierce's lawyer, a sharp-faced man named Reynolds, found his voice. This is a conflict of interest. You can't. There are regulations. There are no regulations against a legitimate business transaction. David interrupted smoothly. Vance is the CEO of a registered investment firm. Sterling Tech is a publicly traded company seeking capital. Everything is above board. Uncomfortable for you? Absolute legal? Not even close. This is revenge, Gerald said. Pure revenge. This is business. Sierra opened her own folder. But since you mentioned it, let's talk about revenge. 5 years ago, your CEO publicly humiliated me based on fabricated evidence. Threw me out of his home in a blizzard. I lost everything that night, including a child. Pierce's face went white. You said you were pregnant, but I thought. You thought I was lying. Like you thought I was a corporate spy. Like you thought everything about me was false. Sierra's voice never wavered. I was 8 weeks pregnant, Pierce. I lost our son in a county hospital while you celebrated getting rid of me. The room was tomb silent. The photos were fake, Sierra continued. Computer-generated deepfakes created by Celeste Dubois and your mother. I have proof. Deathbed confession from your mother's maid, Catherine Moreau. She had a crisis of conscience before she died last year. Very detailed affidavit. Very damning. She slid a document across the table. Pierce's hand shook as he picked it up. Lady Catherine paid for the deepfakes. Sierra recited from memory. $200,000 to a firm in Eastern Europe. Celeste provided the reference photos from your company events. They spent 6 months planning it. The goal was to destroy me and clear the path for Celeste to become the next Mrs. Sterling. My mother would never. Pierce's voice broke. Your mother hated that her precious son married a scholarship student with brown skin. She said it to my face multiple times. Common blood corrupts good breeding. Ring any bells? Gerald shifted uncomfortably. He'd been there for some of those comments. This is all very tragic, Reynolds the lawyer said. But it doesn't change the business reality. These terms are predatory. These terms are generous, David countered. We've valued Sterling Tech at current market price, despite knowing the stock is overvalued by at least 30%. We're offering immediate capital injection when every bank has turned you down. And we're allowing Mr. Sterling to remain as CEO, though in title only. In title only. Pierce looked up. This is my company. This is your father's company that you inherited and subsequently drove into the ground. Sierra corrected. The AI division you insisted on overbuilding. Hemorrhaging money. The European expansion you rushed. Failed in 3 markets. The acquisitions you made to inflate your ego. All underperforming. You're a terrible CEO. Pierce, you always were. You just had enough money to hide it. You can't take my company. I'm not taking it. I'm buying it. At a price you can't refuse because you have no other options. Sierra sat down, crossed her legs. 60%. 3 board seats. Operational control. Take it or watch everything collapse. Your choice. Pierce looked at Gerald, at Reynolds, at his CFO, Martin Webb, who'd been silent the entire meeting. Martin finally spoke. P.S. Our cash reserves will be depleted in 4 months. Maybe 5 if we make drastic cuts. We need this capital. Not from her. Pierce said. Anyone but her? There is no one else, Martin said quietly. We've tried everyone. Phoenix Group is our only option. Pierce stood up, paced to the window. Sierra watched him, this man she'd once loved, now broken and desperate. She felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity. Just cold, hollow completion. Why? Pierce turned to face her. If you wanted revenge, why not just destroy the company? Why buy it? Sierra considered the question. Because destroying it would be too easy. Too quick. I want you to watch me succeed where you failed. I want you to see what I build from the ruins of your arrogance. And I want you to know, every single day, that the woman you threw away was always better than you. The woman I threw away was sweet, kind, gentle. Pierce's eyes were red. What happened to her? You killed her in the snow. Sierra stood. This meeting is over. You have 72 hours. Sign the papers or face bankruptcy. Your choice. She walked toward the door. Sierra, wait. Pierce's voice cracked. I'm sorry for everything. The photos, the accusations, you're a baby. If I could take it back. You can't. Sierra didn't turn around. And I wouldn't want you to. That night made me who I am, stronger, richer, free of you. So thank you, Pierce, for the worst night of my life. It was the beginning of my best. She left the conference room, walked to her office, closed the door. Then, alone, Sierra sat at her desk and let out one long breath. Her hands were shaking now, her heart racing. 5 years of planning, building, becoming, all leading to this moment. David knocked and entered. That was masterful. Stone cold, he's devastated. Good. Sierra pulled out her phone. A text from Aunt Diane. I'm proud of you, baby girl. Another from James Chen. I'm watching the stock. It jumped 3% on rumors of the Phoenix deal. You did it. Sierra looked at her reflection in the dark computer screen. The powerful woman in white. The CEO. The phoenix risen from ashes. She'd won. Pierce Sterling was hers to control. So why did she still feel empty? 72 hours felt like 72 years. Sierra didn't sleep. She worked through the nights, reviewing contingency plans with David, coordinating with her investors, preparing for every possible outcome. If Pierce signed, she'd own his empire. If he refused, Sterling Tech would collapse within months, and she could buy the pieces for pennies on the dollar. Either way, she won. But the waiting gnawed at her. On the second night, Aunt Diane called from Hong Kong. It was early morning there, and Sierra could hear the harbor sounds through the phone. "Have you eaten?" Diane asked. It was always her first question. "I had coffee." "Coffee isn't food, baby. You're running yourself into the ground again." "I'm fine." Sierra stared at the Manhattan skyline, lights stretching to infinity. Somewhere out there, Pierce was making the hardest decision of his life. "Are you, though?" Diane's voice softened. "You got what you wanted. You faced him, showed him who you became. But you don't sound victorious. You sound tired." Sierra closed her eyes. "I thought I'd feel different. Satisfied. Something, but it's just empty." "Revenge usually is," Diane said gently. "I supported this because you needed to heal, and healing looks different for everyone. But destruction doesn't fill the holes inside us, Sierra. It just creates new ones." "So what was I supposed to do? Forgive him? Move on? Pretend that night never happened?"
No.
You were supposed to survive, and you did, beautifully, powerfully. But now you need to decide who you want to be after the surviving is done. They talked for another hour, about Sierra's mother, about the woman Sierra used to be, about whether power and success could ever truly heal a shattered heart. "I don't know how to be soft anymore," Sierra admitted. "I don't know if that woman even exists inside me." "She exists," Diane assured her. "She's just protecting herself, and that's okay. But don't let the armor become your skin, baby. Don't let what he did turn you into something you hate." After they hung up, Sierra stood at the window for a long time, thinking, remembering. The third day arrived. The deadline was 50 p.m. At 14:47 p.m., Sierra's assistant buzzed. "Ms. Vance, Mr. Sterling's legal team is here. They have documents." Sierra's heart kicked. "Send them in." Reynolds entered with 2 associates. No Pierce. They looked exhausted, like they'd been arguing for 3 days straight. "Mr. Sterling has signed the agreement," Reynolds said stiffly. He placed the documents on her desk. 60% equity transferred to Phoenix Group. Board seats confirmed. Operational control ceded. "It's done." Sierra picked up the papers. Pierce's signature was there, bold, angry. The pen had pressed so hard it almost tore through the page. "Where is he?" she asked. "Mr. Sterling chose not to attend. He felt his presence would be counterproductive." Translation: Pierce couldn't face her. "Good." David reviewed the documents with surgical precision. "Everything's in order. Congratulations, Ms. Vance. You now control Sterling Tech." They shook hands. The lawyers left. Sierra sat alone with the signed papers that represented 5 years of work, pain, and transformation. She'd won. So why did it feel like losing? The next morning, Sierra arrived at Sterling Tech headquarters for the first time as majority owner. The building was a glass monument to excess, 40 stories of Pierce's ego. Employees streamed through the lobby, most unaware their entire world had just shifted. The executive floor was different. Everyone knew. Assistants whispered. Executives closed their office doors. By the time Sierra stepped off the elevator, the silence was deafening. Martin Webb, the CFO, met her. He was mid-50s, competent. One of the few people who'd told Pierce the truth about the company's problems. Ms. Vance. Welcome. His handshake was firm. I've prepared briefings on all divisions. We have a lot of work ahead. Where's Pierce? His office. He's been there since yesterday. Won't come out. Sierra walked past Martin, past the staring employees to the corner office. The door was closed. She knocked once. No answer. She opened it anyway. Pierce sat behind his desk in the same clothes from the meeting 3 days ago. Unshaven, hollow-eyed. The office was a mess, papers everywhere, empty bottles of scotch. His computer screen showing stock charts frozen in time. He looked up when she entered. Come to gloat. Come to work. Sierra closed the door. We have a company to save. It's your company now. Why do you need me? Because these employees don't know me. They know you. And despite everything, you built some good things here. The core technology is solid. The team is talented. You just made terrible strategic decisions. Sierra sat across from him. I need you to smooth the transition. Publicly support the changes. Be the face while I do the actual work. Pierce laughed. It sounded broken. So I'm a puppet. A mascot for my own company. Yes? At least she was honest. Pierce poured himself another drink. His hands shook. Did you ever love me? Or was I always just a target? The question caught Sierra off guard. She'd prepared for anger, for fighting, for legal maneuvering. Not for this raw vulnerability. I loved you, she said quietly, completely, stupidly. I gave up everything for you. Stanford, my career, my identity. I became whoever you needed me to be. Then how can you destroy me now? Because you destroyed me first. Sierra's voice hardened. You didn't just end our marriage, Pierce. You humiliated me. Stole my dignity. Threw me away like garbage in front of 200 people. And when I told you I was pregnant, you called it a lie. Pierce flinched. I thought you were trying to manipulate me. I was carrying your child, our son, and I lost him alone in a county hospital because you couldn't be bothered to ask questions, to investigate, to give me one moment of doubt in your certainty. Sierra stood. So yes, I loved you. Past tense. That woman is dead. What's left is someone who learned that love without respect is worthless. My mother, Pierce started. Your mother was a monster, and you let her be. You knew how she treated me. The comments about my skin, my background, my common blood, you heard it all and did nothing. You chose her approval over my dignity every single time. She was my mother.
And I was your wife.
Sierra's control cracked. I deserved protection. Defense. Basic human decency. But you were too weak to stand up to her. Too concerned with keeping everyone happy except the woman who loved you. Pierce's face crumpled. She died 6 months ago. Cancer. She asked for you at the end. Wanted to apologize. Sierra's breath caught. What? She confessed everything. The deepfakes. The setup. Celeste's involvement. She said. She said she was wrong. That you were good for me. That she destroyed the best thing I ever had because of pride and prejudice. Pierce wiped his eyes. She died knowing what she'd done. Died with regret. And I've lived with it every day since. You knew. Sierra's voice went cold. You knew the photos were fake for 6 months. And you never
Tried to find you.
You vanished. No trail, no contact. It was like you'd been erased. Pierce stood. I hired investigators. Scoured social media. Called everyone we knew. Nothing. You were a ghost. I was building a life without you. And now you're here, taking my company, destroying everything I have left. Pierce's voice broke. So congratulations, Sierra. You won. You're the powerful one now. I'm nothing. Sierra looked at this man who'd once been her whole world. Broken, desperate, pathetic. She should feel triumph, satisfaction, victory. Instead, she felt exhausted. You're not nothing. Pierce, you're just not everything anymore. And that's what you can't accept. She moved toward the door. Tomorrow morning, 8:00 a.m., full executive meeting. I'm announcing the restructuring. You'll be there. You'll support it. You'll smile and tell everyone this is a new beginning. Understood. Pierce nodded slowly. Defeated, Sierra left his office and walked to what would now be her office. Larger. Better view. She stood at the window, looking down at the city where she'd once been nobody, and now controlled $1 billion empire. Her phone buzzed. A text from James Chen. How does victory taste? She typed back, like ashes. But there was work to do. Companies to restructure, employees to reassure, systems to rebuild. Sierra pushed the emotions down, locked them away, and opened her laptop. The phoenix was rising. The old empire was burning. And somewhere in the flames, Sierra wondered if she'd lost herself completely, or finally found who she was always meant to be. That night, alone in her new Manhattan penthouse, purchased with her own money, decorated with her own taste, Sierra pulled out a small box from her bedside drawer. Inside was the ultrasound photo. Crumpled, water damaged. But she'd recovered it months after that night, returning to Aspen, searching the estate grounds until she'd found it pressed into frozen earth. 8 weeks. A tiny blob on grainy paper that had been her son, her future, her reason to believe in happy endings. She touched the photo gently. She whispered, I won. Just like I promised. But the baby couldn't answer. And Sierra cried for the first time in 5 years, not from pain, but from the terrifying realization that winning felt exactly like losing. The restructuring of Sterling Tech was ruthless and efficient. Sierra spent the first month cutting dead weight. Vanity projects Pierce had funded, redundant departments, executives who'd climbed the ladder through nepotism rather than competence. She slashed the European offices by 40%, consolidated the cloud infrastructure, and refocused the AI division on profitable government contracts instead of flashy consumer products. Wall Street loved it. The stock climbed 19% in 6 weeks. Employees hated it. 300 people lost their jobs. The office culture shifted from casual brilliance to corporate efficiency. Free lunches disappeared. Ping-pong tables were sold. The rooftop lounge became additional workspace. Pierce watched it all happen from his corner office, powerless. He showed up for meetings, smiled on camera, read the script Sierra's PR team prepared. At night, he drank, alone. Sierra knew because Martin reported everything. Was struggling, the CFO said carefully during their weekly briefing. Missing deadlines. Showing up late. The board is noticing. Then he needs to perform better, Sierra replied without looking up from her financial projections. With respect, Mins. Vance, he's a human being in crisis. Maybe some compassion. Compassion. Sierra's eyes snapped up. Where was compassion when he threw me into a blizzard? When I lost our child. When he believed fabricated evidence without a single question. Martin held up his hands. You're right. I'm sorry. But destroying him won't rebuild you. The same thing Aunt Diane had said. Sierra dismissed it then. She dismissed it now. Focus on the Q3 projections, she said coldly. Pierce's mental health isn't my responsibility. But that night, alone in her office at midnight, Sierra found herself watching security footage from Pierce's office. He sat in the dark, staring at his computer screen. Not working, just staring. His shoulders shook. He was crying. Sierra closed the feed. Went back to work. 2 months into her ownership, a new problem emerged. Celeste Dubois, the woman who'd helped destroy Sierra's life, had spent the last 5 years climbing social ladders, dating wealthy men, building a lifestyle brand on Instagram. When news broke that Sierra Vance, Pierce's supposedly disgraced ex-wife, now controlled Sterling Tech, Celeste went into damage control mode. She called Sierra directly. Had the audacity to call. Sierra, darling, I'm so glad you're doing well. Celeste's voice dripped false sweetness. I always knew you had potential. That whole misunderstanding 5 years ago was just a misunderstanding. Sierra's voice could cut diamonds. You helped fabricate evidence to destroy my life. You wanted me gone so you could marry Pierce and his money. That's not, it was Lady Catherine's idea. You just provided photos. Coordinated timing. Watched me get thrown into the snow and did nothing. Sierra leaned back in her chair. What do you want? Celeste. A pause. Then Celeste's voice shifted, desperate now. I need you to not release the maid's confession publicly. Please. I'm engaged to Marcus Rothschild, the shipping heir. If he finds out I was involved in corporate espionage and fraud, you'll lose your meal ticket. Please, I'll do anything. I was young and stupid and Lady Catherine manipulated me. No. Sierra's voice was final. You made your choices. Live with them. If you release that confession, you'll destroy Pierce too. It implicates his mother, his family name. Is that what you want? Sierra paused. It was a good point. The confession proved Sierra's innocence, but it also revealed the Sterling family's corruption. Going public would humiliate Pierce further, damage the company's reputation, potentially trigger lawsuits. I'll think about it, Sierra said. But Celeste, stay away from me, from Sterling Tech, from Pierce. If I see you anywhere near this company, I release everything. Understood? Understood. Celeste hung up. Sierra sat with the decision. She could destroy Celeste's engagement, her reputation, her carefully constructed life. One press release, one document upload. But what would it accomplish? More destruction, more pain, an endless cycle of revenge. She filed the confession away. 3 months in, something unexpected happened. Pierce started fighting back. Not legally, not publicly, but in small, quiet ways. He began arriving early, staying late, actually working. He rebuilt relationships with clients Sierra's efficiency had alienated. He smoothed over cultural tensions her restructuring had created. He reminded people why they joined Sterling Tech in the first place. The vision, the innovation, the dream. And it was working. Employee satisfaction scores ticked upward. Client retention improved. The company culture found a balance between Sierra's efficiency and Pierce's inspiration. Martin noticed. They're calling you to the Iron Phoenix combination. Your strategic brilliance, his creative vision. The stock analysts love it. Sierra frowned. I don't need his help. Maybe not. But the company does. Martin showed her the numbers. Divisions where Pierce was involved performed 17% better than divisions where he wasn't. Sierra hated that it was true. She started watching him more carefully. Really watching. Pierce in meetings, energized when discussing new technology. Pierce with employees, remembering their names, asking about their families. Pierce presenting at conferences, charismatic and brilliant. The man was talented. She'd forgotten that. Or maybe she'd never wanted to see it. One night, working late, Sierra heard music from Pierce's office. Piano music. She followed the sound and found him at a keyboard she didn't know existed, playing something haunting and beautiful. I didn't know you played, she said from the doorway. Pierce's hands froze on the keys. My mother made me quit when I was 16. Said it wasn't appropriate for a Sterling. Not profitable enough. He turned to face her. I started again after she died, remembering who I was before I became who she wanted. Sierra leaned against the doorframe. What are you playing? Something I wrote 5 years ago, the week after that night. His voice was quiet. I called it It's Snowfall. I never played it for anyone. Why not? Because it's an apology. And apologies don't undo what's done. Pierce stood. Why are you here so late? Working. You're always working. Don't you have a life outside this building? Sierra's jaw tightened. This building is my life. This company. This victory. Is it enough? Pierce asked. All this power. All this success. Does it fill the hole? What hole? The one we both have. The one shaped like the life we could have had if I hadn't been an arrogant coward and you hadn't become so focused on revenge that you forgot how to be human. Sierra's hands clenched. Don't psychoanalyze me. You don't know me anymore. I know you keep our baby's ultrasound photo in your desk drawer. Second from the top, left side. I saw it when I was getting files for Martin. Pierce's voice broke. I know you still cry at night, when you think no one's listening. I know you work yourself to exhaustion, because stopping means feeling. And I know that destroying me hasn't made you happy. Happiness was never the goal. Then what was? Justice! Sierra's voice echoed. You took everything from me. I took everything from you. That's justice. No, that's tragedy. Pierce walked closer, not threatening, just tired. We destroyed each other, Sierra. And we're still destroying each other. When does it end? When you understand what you did to me, I understand. Pierce's composure cracked. Every day I understand. I see you walk these halls, powerful and brilliant and cold, and I know I created that. I killed the woman who loved me because I was too proud and too stupid to ask questions. I let my mother's poison infect my judgment. I threw away the best thing in my life because I valued my ego more than truth. Tears ran down his face. Sierra had never seen Pierce Sterling cry. Not once in 4 years of marriage. I can't take it back. he continued. I can't bring back our son. I can't undo the pain. All I can do is live with what I am. A broken man who destroyed everything good because he was afraid to stand up to his mother and defend the woman who deserved his loyalty. Sierra's throat tightened. Why are you saying this? Because I'm tired, Sierra. Tired of pretending I'm okay. Tired of being a puppet in my own company. Tired of watching you become everything I was, powerful, ruthless, and completely alone. Pierce wiped his eyes. You wanted me to understand. I understand. You wanted me broken. I'm broken. Completely. Totally, so please just tell me what happens now. Sierra stood frozen. This was what she'd wanted. Pierce, devastated and defeated, finally comprehending the magnitude of his betrayal. She should feel triumph. Instead, she felt something crack inside her chest. Something she'd kept frozen for 5 years. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know what happens now. They stood in the quiet office. The piano music still hanging in the air. Two broken people who'd destroyed each other in different ways. And for the first time since that night in the snow, Sierra wondered if revenge had been worth the cost. Sierra didn't sleep that night. Pierce's words circled her mind like vultures. When does it end? She stood in her penthouse, watching the sun rise over Manhattan. 5 years of planning. 5 years of becoming someone new, someone harder, stronger, untouchable, someone miserable. Her phone rang at 6:00 a.m. David Park. We have a problem, he said without preamble. Anonymous tip to the SEC. Someone's alleging you orchestrated the Sterling tech takeover through fraudulent means. Market manipulation. Insider trading. It's baseless, but they're opening an investigation. Sierra's blood ran cold. Who filed it? The tip came from a burner email. But I have my suspicions. David paused. Celeste Dubois has connections. She's scared. Cornered animals bite. Can they make anything stick? Not if our paperwork is clean. Which it is. But the investigation alone could tank the stock. Spook investors. And if the media spins it as scorned ex-wife manipulates markets for revenge, it undermines everything I've built. Sierra pressed her fingers to her temples. How long do we have? The SEC will likely make a public statement by end of business today. After that, it's damage control. David's voice softened. Sierra, maybe it's time to consider. Consider what? Walking away. You've proven your point. You rebuilt yourself. You don't need Sterling Tech to validate that. I'm not running from a fight. It's not running. It's choosing your battles. David sighed. I've been doing this a long time. The ones who win aren't always the ones who destroy their enemies. Sometimes they're the ones who know when to let go. After they hung up, Sierra sat in silence. Let go. The words felt foreign, impossible. She'd built everything around this. Around making Pierce understand. Around proving she was more than the broken woman in the snow. But what came after proving it? At 8:00 a.m., she walked into Sterling Tech. Employees whispered. They'd seen the early market reports. Questions were already swirling online. The stock had dropped 6% in pre-market trading. Martin intercepted her at the elevator. We need a statement. The board is panicking. Investors are calling. We need. I know what we need. Sierra walked past him. Conference room. 10 minutes. Full executive team. She stopped at Pierce's office. He was already there, looking worse than yesterday. Dark circles. Trembling hands. "Did you hear?" he asked.
Yes.
"This is Celeste. Has to be." Pierce stood. "I can make a statement. Defend you. Tell the truth about what my mother did." "No." Sierra's voice was firm. "That helps me, but destroys your family's reputation. It makes you look like a victim of your own mother. It's not worth it. I don't care about my reputation anymore." "Well, I do." Sierra met his eyes. "Because like it or not, we're tied together now. If I go down, Sterling Tech goes down. 3,000 employees lose their jobs. Investors lose billions. Your legacy becomes a cautionary tale about corporate corruption. So what do we do?" Sierra took a breath, made a decision that terrified her. "We tell the truth. All of it. My way." The conference room filled quickly. Executives, board members, department heads, all looking to Sierra for answers. For the iron control she'd shown for 3 months, she stood at the head of the table, poised. Professional. Powerful. "By now you've all heard about the SEC investigation," she began. "Anonymous allegations of market manipulation and fraud. I'm here to address them directly." Everyone leaned forward. 5 years ago, I was Sierra Sterling, wife to Pierce Sterling. I was humiliated publicly, accused of corporate espionage based on fabricated evidence, and thrown out of my home while pregnant. I lost my child that night. I lost everything. Gasps around the table. Pierce's face was pale, but he nodded, confirming. "The photos used to destroy me were deepfakes, created by Pierce's mother and his business associate, Celeste Dubois. I have documented proof, a deathbed confession from Lady Catherine's maid. The entire setup was designed to remove me from Pierce's life." She pulled out the affidavit, passed copies around the table. "I spent 5 years rebuilding myself. I earned an MBA online. Worked brutal hours in venture capital. Built Phoenix Group from nothing into a $1 billion firm. Every deal was legitimate. Every investment was researched. Every dollar was earned through intelligence and hard work." She looked directly at the board members. When Sterling Tech needed capital, Phoenix Group offered fair market terms. Pierce signed willingly because it was only option. There was no fraud, no manipulation. Just business. Gerald Thompson, the board member who'd always supported Pierce, cleared his throat. "But you had a personal vendetta. That's a conflict of interest." "Yes, I did. I won't lie about that." Sierra's voice was steady. "I wanted Pierce to understand what he'd done to me. I wanted him to feel powerless. I wanted revenge." The room was silent. "But over these 3 months, I've realized something. Revenge doesn't heal wounds. It just creates new ones. I came here to destroy Pierce Sterling. Instead, I've rebuilt his company, saved 3,000 jobs, increased shareholder value by 43%. Those aren't the actions of someone committing fraud. Those are the actions of someone who's actually good at this." She turned to Pierce. "I was wrong about something. I thought taking your company would make me whole, but it just made me like you, powerful, successful, and completely alone. Turns out we're both better when we're not at war." Pierce's eyes widened. Sierra addressed the room again. "The SEC investigation will find nothing because there's nothing to find. Every document is clean. Every transaction is legitimate. But I understand this creates instability. So I'm making an announcement." She pulled out a prepared document. Effective immediately. I'm restructuring my ownership of Sterling Tech. I'm reducing my stake from 60% to 49%. The remaining shares will be distributed to employees through a new equity program and sold to diversified institutional investors. Shocked silence. This removes the appearance of personal control while maintaining Phoenix Group's investment. Pierce Sterling will resume operational control as CEO with proper oversight from a strengthened board. I'll remain as a board member and strategic advisor. You're giving up control. Martin looked stunned. I'm choosing strategy over ego. Sierra corrected. Sterling Tech is worth more with both of us working together than with me ruling it alone. The numbers prove it. She looked at Pierce. You're a visionary, Pierce. You see possibilities I don't. But you need structure, discipline. Someone to tell you when your ideas are brilliant and when they're reckless. That's what I can provide. Not as an enemy, as a partner. Pierce stood slowly. Why? After everything I did, why would you give this up? Sierra's voice softened, just slightly. Because I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of being cold. And I'm tired of proving things to people who don't matter. She paused. My mother left me the trust fund so I'd never be trapped. But I built a different kind of trap, one made of rage and revenge. This is me choosing freedom. She turned back to the executives. Questions? Gerald spoke first. What about Celeste Dubois? The person who likely filed this false report. I'm releasing the maid's confession publicly. Not for revenge, for truth. Let the world know what really happened 5 years ago. Let Celeste face the consequences of her actions. And let me finally clear my name. The media will go crazy, Martin warned. Let them. I'm done hiding who I am. Sierra straightened. I was Sierra Vance, scholarship student. Then Sierra Sterling, trophy wife. Then just Sierra, broken woman. Then Sierra Vance, ruthless CEO. I'm tired of reinventing myself for other people's comfort. From now on, I'm just me. Complicated, flawed, human. The meeting ended. Executives filed out, whispering. The news would be everywhere by noon. Pierce stayed behind. That was brave, he said quietly. That was exhausting. Sierra sat down. The armor was getting heavy. The part about us being better together, did you mean it? Sierra considered lying. Maintaining the walls. But she was so tired of walls. Yes, I did. You're frustrating and reckless, and you make terrible financial decisions. But you also inspire people. You see potential where I see risk. We balance each other. She looked at him. We did once, anyway. Before everything went wrong. Pierce sat across from her. I've been seeing a therapist. Since my mother died, working through things. Good. She asked me what I'd say to you. If I could say anything without consequences. He took a breath. I'd say I'm sorry isn't enough. I'd say I was a coward who let my mother's prejudice poison my judgment. I'd say throwing you out was the worst thing I've ever done, and losing our son haunts me every single day. I'd say you deserved so much better than what I gave you. Tears pricked Sierra's eyes. She blinked them back. I'd say, Pierce continued, voice breaking, that I understand if you hate me forever. I'd understand if you walk away from this partnership tomorrow. I'd understand if you never forgive me, because I don't forgive myself. Good, Sierra said. You shouldn't. What you did was unforgivable. Pierce nodded, looked down. But, Sierra's voice was soft. I'm learning that holding on to unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It's killing me, Pierce. The anger, the coldness, the constant need to prove I'm stronger than my pain. So what do? We work together. Professionally, we rebuild this company the right way. We prove that two broken people can create something whole. Sierra stood. But we're not friends. We're not family. We're business partners who share a terrible history. That's all we can be. I can live with that. Pierce stood too, extended his hand. Partners. Sierra looked at his hand. 5 years ago, she would have taken it eagerly, desperately. Now she took it carefully, guardedly. Partners. They shook. A business agreement. Nothing more. But something shifted. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just the tiniest crack in the ice. The SEC investigation concluded. No charges. Complete exoneration. Sierra's public release of the maid's confession made international news. Celeste Dubois's engagement imploded. Her social media empire collapsed. She disappeared from public life. Sierra didn't follow it. Didn't care. Sterling Tech's stock hit an all-time high. The employee equity program transformed company culture. Pierce's creative vision, balanced by Sierra's strategic discipline, produced 3 breakthrough products. Wall Street called them the most successful business partnership of the decade. Sierra stood in her office, smaller now, since she'd given up the corner seat looking at financial projections. Strong, sustainable, ethical. A knock on the door. Pierce entered, carrying 2 coffee cups. Peace offering, he said. Ethiopian blend. I remembered you liked it. Sierra took the cup. Thank you. They'd developed a rhythm. Professional meetings, strategic debates, occasional coffee conversations that stayed strictly business. It worked. The board approved the African expansion, Pierce said. Your risk assessment convinced them. Your vision sold them, Sierra countered. We both did this. Pierce smiled. A real smile, the first she'd seen in years. Would make a good team. A functional team, Sierra corrected. But she almost smiled back. After Pierce left, Sierra's phone rang. Aunt Diane. How are you, baby? Actually good. Sierra realized it was true. The company's thriving. The investigation's over. I'm sleeping again. And your heart? Sierra looked out at the Manhattan skyline. Thought about the woman she'd been. The women she'd become. All the versions of Sierra that had lived and died and been reborn. My heart is healing, she said slowly. Not healed, but healing. I'm learning that's enough. I'm proud of you. Your mother would be too. After they hung up, Sierra opened her desk drawer. The ultrasound photo was still there. She looked at it for a long moment. I did what I promised, she whispered. I survived. I won. But more than that, I let go. She didn't throw the photo away. Some things should be remembered. But she moved it to a different drawer. Not forgotten. Just not front and center anymore. That evening, Sierra did something she hadn't done in 5 years. She left work at 6:00 p.m., walked through Central Park, sat on a bench and watched children play. Let herself feel sad, feel hopeful, feel human. Her phone buzzed. A message from James Chen, dinner next week. Hong Kong misses you. She smiled and replied, I miss it too. Let's make it happen. Another message. This one from David Park. New opportunity. Tech startup. Female founders. Reminds me of you 5 years ago. Interested. Sierra's heart lifted. Send me the pitch deck. This was her future. Not revenge. Not proving anything. Just building, creating. Helping others rise the way she'd risen. The sun set over the city. Sierra watched it, feeling the last of the ice around her heart begin to melt. She wasn't the sweet woman Pierce had destroyed. She wasn't the cold CEO who destroyed him back. She was Sierra, complicated, strong, scarred, healing. And that was enough. As she walked home, snow began to fall, gentle, beautiful. Nothing like that terrible night 5 years ago. Sierra stopped, lifted her face to the sky. Let the snowflakes land on her skin. They didn't burn anymore. She'd survived the blizzard. She'd built her empire. She'd gotten her justice. Now, finally, she could live. The phoenix had risen from the ashes, and this time, she was flying towards something instead of away from it. Peace, purpose, herself. Sierra Vance never remarried. Never sought another relationship with Pierce beyond their successful business partnership. She built Phoenix Group into a global force, specializing in funding women, owned startups and companies led by people from marginalized backgrounds. Pierce Sterling remained CEO of Sterling Tech, humbled and reformed, dedicating himself to ethical business practices and mentoring young entrepreneurs. He never forgot what his arrogance cost him. Together, they proved that two people could destroy each other and still choose to build something meaningful from the ruins. Not through forgiveness, not through romance, but through respect, accountability, and the courage to transform pain into purpose. And sometimes, that's the most powerful ending of all.